One of Queensland's most controversial police commissioners, Ray Whitrod, has died in Adelaide at the age of 88. Commissioner Whitrod was brought in to overhaul the force in the early 70s but resigned 6 years later. His efforts to control corruption were not vindicated until the Fitzgerald inquiry in the late 1980s.
By the time he became Queensland's police commissioner in 1970, Ray Whitrod already had a distinguished career behind him. A long-serving detective, he'd already reformed the Australian Federal Police and helped set up ASIO. But institutionalised corruption in Queensland was a force he couldn't conquer.
The government of the day, particularly the Premier and the police union, went out of their way to block every conceivable reform that he's tried to introduce.
He met powerful opposition when he tried to raise education standards for police and wipe out verbelling and fabrication of evidence, reforms that are now standard practice. But Ray Whitrod resigned in 1976 when Joh Bjelke-Petersen promoted Terry Lewis to Deputy Commissioner, in spite of Whitrod's strong opposition.
I cannot understand where the Premier got his advice from or on what basis he promoted Mr Lewis over so many other men, and in view of the adverse information which I'd conveyed to him.
Commissioner Whitrod described Terry Lewis as a man with a spotted past, but it took another 13 years and a royal commission before that became public knowledge.
I'm delighted with the way it's going.
Ray Whitrod gave evidence at the Fitzgerald inquiry, which ran for more than 2 years, sentenced Terry Lewis to 14 years jail for corruption and brought down the Bjelke-Petersen government.
The last honest copper. Well, I don't believe that. Our police service now is the most honest in the world, and they are very, very good. And a lot of that does, in fact, go back to Ray Whitrod and what he started.
After he left Queensland, Ray Whitrod lectured in criminology at the Australian National University in Canberra and worked with charities, founding the Victims of Crime Association. He was awarded the Companion of the Order of Australia in 1993.
Australia, Australia.
In Queensland and created the Victims of Crime movement, has been buried in Adelaide with full police honours. Ray Whitrod began his career in South Australia as a constable and went on to become the nation's most senior officer.
Ray Whitrod's legacy is legendary.
Ray Whitrod was one of the most significant figures in policing over the 100 years in Australia.
Hundreds honoured the man, known to his family as Tom.
He taught us to think and he taught us to love. He taught us to give and he taught us to have courage. We're so proud.
The Adelaide-born war veteran and ASIO investigator served as top cop in Queensland, Papua New Guinea and for the Commonwealth. In 1979, a meeting with two mothers of murder victims gave birth to South Australia's Victims of Crime Unit, now a worldwide movement.
He was the person who said that victims of crime were the forgotten people in crime. And so I think that he is their rallying champion and will always be remembered for that.
Mr Whitrod was a staunch anti-corruption campaigner. After 7 years of trying to eliminate malpractice from the Queensland police force, he resigned in protest as police commissioner. That led to the infamous Fitzgerald inquiry.
We'll never, ever see corruption flourish in a police service in Australia today as it did in Queensland during the Bjelke-Petersen years.
Mr Whitrod died on Friday, aged 88. Margie McClue, 10 News.
1976, when he resigned his Queensland post in protest at corruption in the force. Later, here in Adelaide, where he was born, Mr Whitrod helped to establish the Victims of Crime Service. He became a Companion of the Order of Australia and in 1984 was named Senior Citizen of the Year.
Out in strength to honour Ray Whitrod's illustrious career. During World War II, he served as an RAAF navigator aboard Sunderland flying boats, then worked for ASIO during the Petrov spy scandal. Career highlights included positions as Commissioner of the Commonwealth, Papua New Guinea and Queensland Police Forces.
And when it came to the crunch, resigned his position in defiance of corruption. And so we all owe Ray Whitrod a huge debt of gratitude.
His reforms in Queensland led to the Fitzgerald inquiry, which uncovered widespread corruption.
The Queensland Police Service is a better organisation now for his contribution.
But he had no peer in terms of his career with policing.
I think he was a man well ahead of his time.
Ray, 88, was cremated with his dog's collar on his casket. He's survived by daughter Ruth and son Ian.
He taught us to give, and he taught us to have courage. We're so proud.
Peter Caldecott, 7 News.
Commissioner Ray Whitrod have described him as a man ahead of his time. Past and present politicians and senior police from around the nation were among the 200 mourners at today's service at the Flinders Street Baptist Church. Ray Whitrod will be remembered for his stance against police corruption in Queensland during the 1970s.
I think he was a man well ahead of his time, and I believe that he will stand in history as one of the most remarkable people to ever serve in Australian policing circles.
There were also tributes to Mr Whitrod's pioneering work in services to victims of crime. He was 88 when he died last week in an Adelaide nursing home.